Welcome to Accident Stories. I'm your host, Dr. Steve Eggleston. Today I want to tell you a story about having the right car insurance if you're ever in an accident. I treated patients as a chiropractor in California for 20 years. Then I became an attorney, and I've been practicing personal injury law in California for the last 15 years. I want to tell you why you need good car insurance and why buying the cheapest car insurance is a really bad idea. 30 years ago, the insurance companies had slogans like, "You're in good hands with Allstate." "Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there." You bought insurance to protect yourself, to protect your assets, to protect your health. And then about 1990, along came some of these smaller companies, and they began to advertise, "We can sell you cheaper insurance. Call us. We'll save you 15% in 15 minutes. I've called those companies, and do you know what they do to save you money? They take away some of your coverage. That's not a good idea. I want to tell you a story today about a knight in shining armor. He was riding his horse, and he had a long way to his destination, so he was riding through the dark skies of the night. Suddenly he heard a voice, and the voice said, "Get off your horse." And he was a little afraid. He had never heard a voice coming from the skies before, but he got off his horse, and he was standing in a dried riverbed. And the voice said to him, "Pick up some rocks and put them in your pocket." And so he obeyed. After he had put some rocks in his pocket, the voice said, "Now ride on to your destination, and tomorrow when the sun comes up, you will be both happy and sad." So he rode his horse, got to his destination, went to sleep, and when he woke up in the morning, he reached into his pockets, and the rocks that he had picked up were all diamonds and emeralds and rubies and other precious stones. And he was happy that he got some, but sad that he didn't get more. And that is the story of insurance. I deal with people who are in car accidents every day. I deal with the results of people buying insurance. Some people buy good insurance. Some people protect themselves properly. And other people buy the cheapest insurance they can buy. This is not a good idea. Now, I practice in California, and everything I'm going to tell you today applies to California law. There are other states that are at-fault states, like California is, and the basic principles would also apply to those states. And some of the principles would apply even to no-fault states as far as buying adequate coverage. There are only two coverages that protect you personally, that protect your health, that pay your medical bills if you are in a car accident in California or other at-fault states. Those two are medical payments and underinsured motorist coverage. Now, sometimes they call it uninsured motorist, sometimes they call it underinsured motorist, and the difference is the policy is the same, but if the person had no insurance at all that hit you, then it's uninsured motorist. If the person that hit you didn't have enough insurance to pay your bills, it's underinsured motorist. It's exactly the same coverage, but it pays in both situations. Now let me explain what they mean, and you've never heard this from your agent because frankly most of them don't know this. They just try to sell you a policy. They're just salespeople. They don't realize that if you were ever to get in a car accident, you might need good insurance. Let's talk about medical payments first of all. Medical payments will pay your doctor bills They will pay your dentist if you break a tooth in a car accident. They will pay your acupuncturist, your chiropractor, your physical therapist. They will pay to purchase a pillow or a back support if you need them while you're sleeping to make you more comfortable so you can get some sleep. Basically, medical payments will pay up to whatever limit you have to help you get well. Sometimes they will pay directly to the doctor. Other times they will reimburse you if you've had to pay the doctor. So if you buy the typical amount in California, which is $5,000, you have up to $5,000. I can tell you that I was in a car accident in 2012, and my ride to the hospital in the ambulance cost $2,200, and my hospital bill for one day was $32,000. So if I had purchased $5,000 of medical payments, I would not have enough to cover that. Fortunately, I had purchased $100,000 of car insurance, and so that paid my hospital bill completely. It paid my ambulance bill completely, and I didn't have to worry about it. Now, I can tell you $100,000 of medical payments coverage on my policy costs me $12 a month. That's right, $12 a month. It's the cheapest health insurance you can buy anywhere, folks. It is really important that you have it. You should buy the maximum medical payments coverage that your company sells. If you happen to be with a company that only sells a maximum of $5,000, you should change companies, in my opinion, because this is one of the two most important coverages that you have on your car insurance policy. Now, medical payments will cover you if you're in your car and there's an accident. It will pay even if the accident is your fault. If you fall asleep at the wheel, run off the road, crash into a tree, it will still pay your medical bills, even if it was your fault. It will pay the medical bills up to the specified amount of everyone who is in your car. So if you and your family of 4 are in the car, under my policy, each person in my car is covered up to $100,000 in case there's an accident, even if the accident were my fault while I'm driving. It's a fantastic coverage. Now, it covers you if you're in a rental car. It covers you if you're riding in someone else's car. Let's say that you're going golfing and your buddy picks you up and there's a car accident. It doesn't matter if the accident is your buddy's fault. It doesn't matter if it wasn't his fault. Your medical payments on your policy follows you into every car that you're in California and other states. So you're covered for up to $100,000 in any car that you're in. Rental car, a friend's car. Now, what if you have friends that aren't even your family riding in your car? What if you go pick up your buddy to go golfing? The $100,000 that I have on my medical payments policy covers my friend while riding in my car. So if there's an accident, he has $100,000 of coverage, I have $100,000 of coverage to pay my hospital bill, my ambulance bill, my doctor bills, any medical bills related to that accident. Now, what if you have children? What if, heaven forbid, you have a 16-year-old daughter? I've had one of those, and you worry about your children. But suppose that some young guy comes over to your house to pick up your daughter for a date, and there's an accident. Maybe it's the boyfriend's fault, maybe it's not. Maybe he was driving perfectly safely and some other person caused the accident. Guess what? Your daughter is covered for up to whatever your policy is, in my case $100,000, for her medical bills if there's an accident in her boyfriend's car. If I have children and they're out riding a bicycle, or I'm riding a bicycle, or my wife is riding a bicycle, or walking down the street, and a car hits them while they're riding a bicycle or hits them in the crosswalk, every one of my family members living in my household are covered for $100,000 of their medical bills under my policy. If you buy the cheapest insurance, the $1,000 MedPay policy, or you have an agent that's not too bright, frankly, and they say something dumb to you like, well, you have health insurance, so you don't need medical payments. Oh yes, these days, medical insurance have $5,000 deductibles, $8,000, $10,000 deductibles. Perhaps you belong to an HMO and you get into a car accident. Trust me, I was a doctor in an HMO system. They do not provide to you the very best care if you're in a car accident. Oh, they do a great job if you're having a baby. They do a fantastic job if you have the sniffles or the sneezes and you need some care. But they don't provide the best care if you're in a car accident. They ration the care. That's the problem that you would have if you listen to an agent, didn't buy medical payments coverage because the dumb agent frankly says something like, well, you don't need MedPay. Trust me, folks, you need MedPay. Even if you have health insurance, it'll pay your deductibles, it'll pay for the doctors that your HMO doesn't even have. Sometimes you might need to see a neuropsychologist or a neurosurgeon or some specialized doctor that your health insurance doesn't provide for you. Your medical payments will cover that. So it doesn't matter if you are unloading the groceries from your car and you trip and fall while unloading the groceries. That's related to a car. Your medical payments will pay for your medical bills. And I've treated patients who were in this situation. When I was a chiropractor, I have handled cases as an attorney in exactly those situations. So medical payments, most important coverage, buy the maximum, and consider changing companies if you have a company that doesn't sell more than $5,000 of MedPay. The second insurance that covers you personally is called uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage. Now this takes the place of the liability insurance of the person that hit you. So suppose that you're driving down the 405 freeway or the 805 freeway in California. You're in an accident. If the person has no insurance whatsoever, your uninsured motorist steps in and takes the place of the insurance that dummy didn't have, frankly. And so then it will pay for your pain and suffering. It will pay for your lost income, your lost wages for the days or weeks that you might be out of work after an accident. It's really important that you have not just MedPay to pay your doctor bills, but large amounts of uninsured, underinsured motorist. I have had clients who have had lost wages of over $1 million. I have had clients who could never ever return to work. I had one client who had a head injury and could no longer speak. Well, you can't be a teacher if you can't speak. These can happen. Now, they don't happen very often, and that's why buying lots of insurance is not as expensive as you think. I carry $250,000 of uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage on my policy, and that cost me about $14 a month. So the two coverages that cover me, medical payments for $100,000, that's $12 a month. Uninsured motorist, underinsured motorist, in case somebody hits me that doesn't have insurance or doesn't have enough insurance, about $14 a month. Covers me for $250,000. And I can tell you, if you compare prices with your agent, I suggest you watch this video, take a few notes, then call your agent and tell them what you want. Don't let them sell you the cheapest policy. Don't let them sell you what they want you to have, you have to be the knight in shining armor and pick up a lot of rocks. You have to protect yourself, and this is the way you do it. Now, uninsured motorist, again, will cover you in any car that you're in. If you're in a rental car, if you're in a friend's car, it will cover all the people that are in your car, whether they're family members or friends. If they're riding in your car and there's an accident, they're all covered. So, MedPay and uninsured motorist are the only two that protect you. Let's talk about some of the coverages that you have on your car insurance policy but don't necessarily cover you. You have a policy or a part of your policy called liability, and there are multiple parts to that liability. Let's talk about them for a moment. Liability is your insurance that covers the other person if you cause an accident. So if you run into somebody and they have to go to the hospital, it is your liability policy that covers their injuries and covers their lost earnings and covers them for pain and suffering. Now, there are limits to these liabilities, and there's usually 3 different numbers. For example, let's take an example of a $100,000 liability policy. That usually covers $100,000 for one person who's injured, $300,000 for all the people that are injured in the accident, and another policy, the 3rd number, is the property damage amount. So, in California, the legislature set the lowest limits that you can purchase in California in 1967. Those limits were established as $15,000 for one person, $30,000 for all the people that you injure, and $5,000 for property damage. Well, in 1967, you could buy a very nice car for $5,000. And so if you crashed into someone in California and totaled their Cadillac or their Mercedes, your $5,000 of property damage coverage would cover that. That's not enough in the 21st century. These days, people are driving down the road all the time in cars that cost $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 and more. $80,000, $90,000, $100,000. And if you total one of those cars and you have a $5,000 property damage limit, you are subject to being sued personally. And they can garnish your wages, and many bad things can happen to you. So it's a good idea in California, in my opinion, to have a minimum of $50,000 of property damage liability, because that would cover 90% of the cars on the road. Now, the liability portion of your policy is about 40 to 45% of the total premium. You remember we talked about MedPay and uninsured motorist. Together, those are $25 or $26 a month, but your car insurance costs a lot more than that. It's because those coverages are very inexpensive, so I want you to load up on those. And the other coverages that are expensive are collision, which we'll talk about in a moment, and liability for other people. Each of those is about slightly less than half of what you pay, 40 to 45% for each of those. So the liability for others, you have to carry, in my opinion, a minimum of $100,000, $300,000 of liability. If you talk to your agent and you say, how much more is it to get $250,000 instead of $100,000, you'll be amazed. You think, oh, it'll probably be 2.5 times more. No, it won't be. The reason is because not very many accidents happen at that level over $100,000. And so insurance premiums are set by the likelihood of having a claim that's that high. And so if you want to go from $100,000 to $250,000, you'll be surprised. It might only be 10 or 20% more. That's a good deal. So $250,000 for one person, $500,000 for everybody in the accident. If you crash into a busload of school children on the way to school, The minimum in California of $15,000 for one and $30,000 for everybody is not going to cover those injuries. Have at least $250,000, $500,000 for all the people, and $50,000 at least of property damage coverage. You'll find it's not that expensive to go up to $100,000 on the property damage. Those are my recommendations. Let's talk about the other coverage that covers your car. It's called collision. Collision pays for the damage to your car if there's an accident. It doesn't matter whether you're at fault. If you crash your car, if you're at fault, if you fall asleep at the wheel and drive off the road and roll over in a ditch, your collision coverage will pay to repair your car. Collision coverage has a deductible. So in that situation, you pay the first $500 or $1,000, and the car insurance company that you have will pay the rest to get your car repaired. On that, let me give you a little hint. If you have a $500 deductible, you will pay about $200 more a year with almost every company than if you have a $1,000 collision deductible. Now, if somebody else crashes into you and they have insurance, you don't even have to pay your collision deductible. You can just go to your insurance company or go to the other guy's insurance company and they will pay to have your car repaired. So the only reason you would have to pay your collision deductible is if you cause an accident. Most of the better companies, I'll say, will waive your deductible. Even if the other guy had no insurance, they will waive your deductible if the accident was not your fault. So having a $1,000 deductible will save you $200 a year approximately in California, and after 5 years you've saved $1,000 in premium. So if you don't plan on causing any accidents for the next 5 years, you're money ahead by going to a $1,000 deductible. Now let's talk for just a minute about what happens if your car is totaled. Now a car is totaled when the cost of repairing it is higher than the car is worth. So if you have a $100,000 Mercedes-Benz and you do $40,000 or $50,000 of damage to it, they will repair your car because it would cost $100,000 to buy you another one, and it would only cost you $40,000 or $50,000 to fix your car. So they won't total your Mercedes, even if it looks like a mess. But let's suppose that you've purchased an inexpensive car, or you bought it many years ago, and it's only worth $1,000. Well, see, if you do $2,000 of damage to a car that's worth $1,000, they will not repair it. They will say that it's been totaled. Totaled has nothing to do with the amount of damage on your car. You can look at a car that looks totaled, but if it's an expensive car and it would cost less to fix it than it would cost to purchase a new one, your car's not totaled. But you can have a cheap old car. It may be perfectly reliable. It may get you to work and back. It may serve your needs fine, but it's only worth $1,500, and someone dents your bumper and causes $1,600 of damage to it. They're going to give you $1,500 and take your car. Now, in some situations, they might give you a little bit less than the value of your car and let you keep the car. And that can occur as well. So that's something you would want to discuss with me or whoever your attorney is if you were ever in an accident. Let's talk about the other coverage that pays for damages to your car. This is called comprehensive. Comprehensive is very inexpensive. It doesn't cost much because frankly there aren't that many claims and they're not very expensive. Comprehensive covers vandalism to your car. It covers theft of things inside your car. It covers if someone breaks into your trunk and steals something out of your car. If someone keys the side of your car or spray paints the side of your car, or a tree falls on your car, your comprehensive covers that. So if you'll remember, I said have a larger deductible for your collision because your collision coverage is expensive, and you could save $200 a year by going to a $1,000 deductible instead of a $500 deductible. Comprehensive is different. My comprehensive, I carry the lowest deductible of $250 because my comprehensive coverage only costs me about $5 or $6 a month for that $250 deductible. Oh sure, I could go to a $1,000 deductible on comprehensive, but it would only save me about $2 or $3 a month, and that's not worth it in case I have a claim. Again, you're not trying to buy the cheapest insurance, you're trying to cover yourself properly, and I urge you and recommend to you that you have different deductibles for your collision and your comprehensive because they're very different in cost and they're very different in what they cover. Agents who don't know what they're doing will say, oh, let's just give you $500 deductible on each of these. If you have an agent like that, run, okay, and find an agent who knows what they're doing. And it may be difficult to find an agent that knows what they're doing, so take what I'm teaching you here today and tell your agent what you want. There are other coverages on a car insurance policy, such as rental car reimbursement and towing reimbursement. Rental car reimbursement is a great coverage to have. It only costs a few dollars a month at the most. And if you're ever in a situation where your car's been damaged in an accident, whether it's your fault or not, rental car will rent you a car on most policies for about 30 days at about $30 a day. The amounts and the number of days vary from policy to policy, but essentially it's going to cover you for up to a month in a rental car in a reasonably priced car. It only costs a couple of dollars a month. It's a good coverage to have. The other one is towing reimbursement. Now I have AAA in case my car ever needs to be towed somewhere, but I also cover myself with the towing coverage from my insurance company. The reason is AAA will tow your car basically to the nearest repair facility. And I was one time coming back from the Lake Havasu area of Arizona, and my radiator went out on my car, sprung a leak. I was nowhere near home, and they towed my car to Palm Springs, which was the nearest repair facility. And I lived in Orange County, which was another 100 miles past that. I went ahead and had the towing company take my car all the way to my house so that I could take it to my own repair shop near my home, and submitted the bill to my insurance company, and they reimbursed me for the additional money that AAA charged me for having to tow my car farther than the nearest repair facility. So in summary, MedPay. Load up on MedPay. It covers you, covers everyone in your family for anything related to a car. Uninsured motorist is the other one that covers you, your family, and everyone in your car in case there's an accident and the person who hits you doesn't have enough. Collision covers the repairs to your car or if it's totaled, and I recommend a $1,000 deductible. Comprehensive covers vandalism and other damage to your car, like trees falling on it. I recommend the lowest deductible of $100 or $250 for that because that's an inexpensive coverage. And liability for others, I recommend that you purchase adequate coverage for the 21st century, a minimum of $100,000 of liability and a minimum of $50,000 of property damage. Although, if you can afford it, and it's only a few dollars more, I recommend the $250,000 and the $100,000 of property damage liability. Get the rental car reimbursement. It's not expensive at all. Get the towing coverage. It's really inexpensive. And hopefully you'll never have to use these insurances. But the reason that you purchase them is for peace of mind. I was in a car accident, as I mentioned, in 2012. On the first day, I had medical bills between the hospital and the ambulance of over $34,000. Ultimately, I had to have 11 surgeries, and my medical bills were over $310,000. I was very happy that I had purchased adequate insurance to cover myself in this situation. I recommend you do the same. This has been Accident Stories, the first edition. I'm Dr. Steve Eggleston. It's been nice to have you here. If you are in California and you need to speak with an attorney for representation in a personal injury matter, you can reach my office at 877-424-4765. Ask for me personally. I'd be happy to discuss both your injuries and representing you from a legal point of view.